The night I almost watched the ceiling come down and a woman lose everything started as the worst date of my life. The fryer was popping in the back like it was angry. The air smelled like hot oil and cheap coffee, with a sweet hint of vanilla from the shake machine trying to cover it up. Rain slammed against the windows and made the neon sign outside blur red and blue across the glass. Every time the front door opened, cold, wet air slid down the back of my neck and made me shiver. Across from me, my date checked her phone again. The glow from the screen looked brighter than her smile. "So, you're a contractor?" she asked. Her tone said she was already bored. "Structural," I said. She nodded like she did not really care. "That sounds unstable." I could have explained that I keep buildings from falling down. That I read steel and concrete the way other people read books. Instead, I just took another sip of burnt coffee and felt the vinyl seat stick to my forearms. This date was already a failure. I had no interest in fixing it. Then, she walked up to our booth. She carried a black tray in one hand like it weighed nothing. She wore a white tank top and a black waist apron tied tight. Her dark hair was down, falling over one shoulder like she had been too busy to do anything fancy with it. She set a sweating glass of ice water on the table, but she did not look at my date. She looked at me. "If you wanted," she said, soft but clear, "I'd sit in your booth all night." It did not sound like a cheesy line. It did not sound desperate. It sounded like an honest offer, a door she was quietly holding open. Her eyes were tired, sharp, and warm all at once. My date scoffed and looked back at her phone, like the waitress had not spoken at all. My heart did something my brain did not approve of. I opened my mouth to answer, not sure what I was even going to say. Then I heard it. A sharp crack above us, like someone snapping a board over their knee. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. My eyes went up. Hers did too. The ceiling gave a long, low groan. Wood, complaining. Metal fasteners slipping. I knew that sound. It was the sound right before something heavy stops pretending it can hold. "Move," I said. I grabbed the edge of the table and shoved it sideways. My date yelped as I pulled her out of the booth and pushed her toward the aisle. Behind us, the drop ceiling buckled. Wet insulation and broken tiles crashed down onto the booth where we had just been sitting. A light fixture swung, sparked, and went dark. People screamed. Plates hit the floor. The waitress moved faster than anyone. "Front and back doors," she yelled. "Both sides. No phones. Just move." She sounded like she had practiced this in her head 100 times. One hand guided an older woman toward the exit. The other still somehow held the tray, like she refused to drop anything someone trusted her with. Instinct is not romance. It is math at speed. I scanned the ceiling line, looking for the next failure. The worst damage was over the booths, not the kitchen. Water stains spread out like old bruises. This had been coming for a long time. The cold night slapped us as we pushed out under the front awning. Rain bounced off the parking lot. People coughed drywall dust, argued about what they saw, shook their heads. Across the street, a dark SUV idled with its lights on, pointing right at the diner like it had been waiting. The waitress saw it. Her jaw tightened. "That him?" I asked. She did not look away from the SUV. "Yeah." An older man in a flannel jacket, still holding a rolled-up newspaper, stepped closer to us. I had seen him in the corner booth when we came in. "Vane, the developer," he muttered. "Predator." The waitress shot him a look, not a soft one, but not angry either. More like telling him not to start a fight in the parking lot. I stepped back inside the diner to check the damage while everyone stayed under the awning. The air inside was cooler now, full of wet plaster and rain. I stood under the broken section only long enough to see the truth. The beam over the booths was swollen and stained. The joists around it were dark and soft from water. This was not bad luck. This was a roof that had been leaking for weeks, maybe months. I came back to the door. "No one goes back under that span," I said. "Not until it's braced." The waitress nodded like she had already decided to trust me, or at least needed to. She walked behind the counter, grabbed a roll of tape, and started blocking off the aisle. "What do you need?" she asked. "Anything straight," I said. "Mop handles, broomsticks, milk crates, whatever you've got." She headed for the supply closet without hesitation. We built ugly temporary supports out of whatever the diner could spare. Broom handles wedged under the sagging grid. Mop poles jammed into corners. Milk crates stacked like a crooked tower. It was not perfect. It was not permanent. But it took some load and kept the rest from coming down. Water dripped from the ceiling and ran down my wrist like ice. I wiped it off and checked the beamline again. That was when the front door opened. Not another customer. A man walked in like he owned the place. His jacket was clean. His boots were clean. His hands were clean. He stepped around the puddles without even looking at them. "Elena," he said. His voice was smooth. Practiced, so that was her name. She stood behind the counter now, shoulders squared, chin up. "Get out, Greg," she said. He smiled, like she had invited him to sit down. "I heard there was an incident. I am concerned. You need help." "I need you gone," she replied. His eyes slid to me, taking my muddy boots and wet shirt in like I was a line item on a bill. "And you are?" "Silas," I said. "Structural contractor." "Ah," he said. "Then you understand liability." He turned back to Elena, trying to tower over the counter. "The bank will care about this. They will care a lot." Elena reached under the register and pulled out a metal cash box and a thick folder. The edges were soft, worn by worry and late nights. She dropped the folder on the counter and flipped it open. I saw bank letters stamped with red words that never mean anything good. "You already called them," she said. Her voice was steady. "You already told them I am a risk." "I alerted them," he said. "There was a structural failure, possible code issues. They are protecting their investment. I can solve all of this today." Quote, "By owning me," she said. "By keeping you employed," he answered. That word hit harder than his smooth tone. Employed, like she was just another line on his payroll. "I'm not your employee," Elena said. He looked at me again, amused. "You gonna donate labor, hero?" I picked up a wet chunk of insulation and squeezed it over my hand. Water poured out onto the counter. "This did not happen tonight," I said. "This roof has been soaking for weeks. You can buy her debt, but you also buy this mess. You still pay for a full repair." He did not like hearing that. His jaw tightened. "She needs capital," he said. Elena looked at me, not begging, not asking for a rescue, just measuring me the way I had been measuring the ceiling. "I'm not taking his money," she said. Something settled in my chest when she said that. She was not looking for a savior. She was fighting to keep her own ground. I nodded once. "Heard you." Greg Vane watched that small exchange and completely misread it. People like him always think the only thing that matters is who signs the check. He smiled, cold around the edges. "You have 30 days before they take this place," he said. "You will not make it." Then he turned and walked back out into the rain. The ceiling above us creaked softly. The tape line fluttered in the draft. Elena laid both hands flat on the counter, leaned over her folder, and stared at the numbers like they were a wall she had to climb. I stood there, wet, tired, heart pounding from more than the near miss, and I knew one thing for sure. I was not done with this diner. And I was not done with Elena. The inspector came the next morning. I got there before he did. The rain had slowed down to a steady gray drizzle. The diner looked tired from the outside. One side of the neon sign was out. The big windows were streaked with dirt and dried rain. Inside, the broken part of the ceiling was still taped off. Buckets sat under the worst strips. The rest of the diner was quiet. No music, no orders, just the low hum of the fridge and the soft sound of Elena flipping pages in her folder. She stood behind the counter with a pen between her fingers, hair pulled back now, eyes red like she had not slept much. "You came back," she said. "Yeah," I said. "You make good cocoa." Her mouth twitched like she almost smiled. Before she could answer, the front door opened and the inspector walked in. He had a hard hat with the sticker still on it and a clipboard that already looked tired of his job. He did not ask how anyone felt. He went straight to the taped-off area and looked up. "This span needs permanent support," he said, tapping the stained beam with the end of his pen. "You keep this section closed until you have a stamped repair plan and real posts under it. Permit, engineer, sign-off, the works." Elena wrote down every word. No drama, no fight, just facts. The inspector moved to the back door. "Show me your grease trap," he said. Elena's jaw tightened. "It's serviced," she said. "Show me," he repeated. We went out into the narrow alley behind the diner. The air smelled like wet concrete and old fry oil. The grease trap sat like a low, ugly metal box in the ground, half hidden near the wall. The lid was a little crooked. The rubber gasket around it was cracked. He frowned. "You need to get this sealed right," he said. "Keep service receipts. If someone wants to shut you down, they will go for this first." Elena pulled a plastic sleeve from her folder. It held greasy paper receipts with company names, dates, amounts, signatures. "Good," he said. "Keep these close. You will need them." He left with a short nod. No comfort, no extra words, just a warning and a checklist. Elena stood there in the alley for a moment after he drove off, folder hugged to her chest. Her shoulders were stiff, but her hands shook just a little. "You okay?" I asked. She did not lie. "No," she said. Then she took a breath and looked at the grease trap. "Don't touch that," she added. "I'm not," I said. "I'm just looking." I knelt beside the box and checked the lid, the gasket, the edges. The smell rose up sharp and sour when I lifted the corner. "If Vane wants a weapon, this is his," I said. "He will call the bank and the health department and say you are out of compliance." She stared down at me. "Why do you care?" Quote. I pointed up at the roofline. "Because the structure doesn't care who is right. It just fails, and he will use any crack he can find. You need this tight, and your receipts ready." She shifted the umbrella in her hand until it covered both of us, even though I was already soaked. She did it like it was nothing, like sharing space with me was automatic now. "Can this place even be saved?" she asked quietly. I looked at the roof, the beam, the grease trap, the tired old walls. Then I looked at her. "Yes," I said, "if we move fast and don't let him write the story for you." That night, my crew rolled in with a flatbed and a generator. The parking lot lights bounced off metal posts, screw jacks, plywood sheets. My guys grumbled about the rain but got to work. We set temporary posts under the bad beam, adjusted the jacks little by little, lifting just enough to take the load. You do not jack a soaked structure like you are trying to win a race. You do it slow, listening for any crack that sounds wrong, watching every line. Elena stayed the whole time. She made coffee for the crew and taped off the kitchen. She wrote down every cost on a yellow pad in tight, neat handwriting. She held flashlights when we needed a third hand, never complaining when the cold wind cut through her thin jacket. Around midnight, when the ceiling finally stopped groaning and the beam felt solid enough for now, she handed me a mug. "Cocoa," she said. "Real vanilla, not from a machine." Steam curled up into the cold air, my fingers wrapped around the mug, grateful for the heat. "Roof's safer than the dining room," she added. "Come on." We climbed a metal ladder at the back, up to the flat roof over the kitchen. The town spread out around us, quiet and wet. Street lights softened in the mist. The parking lot below was empty except for my truck and her old sedan. We sat on the low parapet, shoulders almost touching, Cocoa warm between us. "How long have you been holding this place up by yourself?" I asked. She kept her eyes on the lot. "Long enough," she said. "No story, no pity, just 2 words." I told her my own truth. "I slept in my truck for 5 years," I said. "Job sites, rest stops, anywhere legal. Saved every extra dollar. Not because I love being uncomfortable. Because I hate being trapped." She turned her head, studying me. "Options," she said slowly. "Yeah," I said. "Options like walking away from bad deals, buying my own tools, not owing anyone with teeth." She looked down into her mug. Her voice dropped a little. "I need 15,000, she said. "I know," I answered. I had seen the numbers in her folder, the bank letter, the red stamps. I did not give her a speech, just the truth. The next day, a courier came in with a thick envelope. Elena opened it at the counter. Her lips moved as she read it twice. Notice of default. Foreclosure steps. Dates. Threats dressed up as formal words. She set the envelope down like it was hot metal. Her hand stayed on top of it. 5 minutes later, Greg Vane walked in like he had been parked outside waiting for the smoke. "I can stop this," he said at once. "You know I can." "You called them," she said. "I warned them," he said. "Roof failure, possible grease issues. They are protecting their asset." "My grease trap is serviced," Elena said. He smiled. "Records can be argued. Codes can be read in different ways." I pulled the folder toward me and flipped through the note papers until I found what I hoped was there. Most loans have a cure clause. Not everyone reads it. "Here," I said, tapping a small paragraph on the back page. "Cure period, 30 days after notice. You pay what you owe, fix the violations, and you keep the property." "That is not how it works," Vane snapped. "It is, if this line is real," I said. "And it is, signed and stamped." Elena leaned closer, eyes moving over the words. Her fingers traced the line like she was learning it by touch. "So I have 30 days, she said. 30 days, I said, to pay back what you owe, prove the roof and the trap are in compliance, and shut the door in his face. Vane laughed under his breath. "You think you can come up with 15 grand in full repairs in a month? She does not have that kind of money." He was right about one thing. She did not. But I did, not easily, not without emptying the account I had built out of cold nights in my truck and long shifts on job sites. But it was there. I felt Elena watching me. Not hoping, not pleading. Just waiting to see what I would do with the choice sitting between us. I took a slow breath. "Tomorrow morning," I said, looking at her and not at him, "we go to the bank." Her eyes widened just a little. "With what?" I met her gaze. "With your receipts, that clause, and my cashier's check." The room went very quiet. The fryer in the back clicked off. Rain hit the windows harder. Vane stared at me like I had stolen something from him. "You're making a mistake," he said. Maybe I was, but for the first time in a long time, the risk felt like a choice I wanted. I looked at Elena. "It's not charity," I said. "It's a partnership. 50-50. Your kitchen, my structure. We both get veto power. No one owns the other." Her hand tightened on the edge of the counter. She swallowed once, eyes locked on mine. "Okay," she said softly, "tomorrow." And as I walked out into the rain that night, I knew I was not just betting on a building, I was betting on her. The bank smelled like paper and cold air. The next morning, I walked in beside Elena, both of us damp from the drizzle outside. She held her folder tight against her chest. I held a cashier's check inside my jacket. It felt heavier than steel. The teller, Barb, knew me from deposit runs for past jobs. She wore glasses on a chain and had a calm face that did not change much. "Morning, Silas," she said. Then she looked at Elena. "You must be Elena from the diner." Elena nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." Barb looked between us like she could tell this was not a normal visit. "What can I help you with?" I set the cashier's check on the counter. "We need to bring a loan current," I said. "And stop a foreclosure." Barb's eyebrows went up a little. She took the check with careful fingers and typed something into her computer. "We'll need the note number," she said. Elena opened her folder, hands only shaking a little now, and slid the loan papers across the counter. "It's all here," she said. Barb started reading. I watched Elena instead. She stood straight, chin up, like the floor might tilt, but she would not. The front doors opened hard. I did not have to turn to know who it was. "Stop that transaction," Vane said. His voice was louder than it needed to be. People in the waiting area turned to look. Barb did not. She kept her eyes on the screen. "Mr. Vane," she said, calm, "you will need to wait your turn." "I hold that debt," he snapped, pointing at Elena's papers. "I have an agreement with the bank to buy that note." Barb finally looked up at him, then at us. "This payoff came first," she said. "And this customer is still inside her cure period." She turned the paper around and pointed at the same small paragraph I had found. 30 days, she read. "This is day 2. Vane's mouth tightened. "She cannot pay the balance. She cannot afford repairs. This is a pointless delay." Quote, I slid a printed copy of the code and a list of receipts across the counter. "Roof shoring is in place," I said. "Engineer is lined up. Grease trap service is current and will be sealed and documented. She is not out of compliance." Barb checked the numbers on the check against the amount due. Her fingers tapped the keyboard. The screen reflected in her glasses. "Elena," she said, lifting her eyes, "do you authorize this payoff?" That was the moment. Elena did not look at me. She did not look at Vane. She looked straight at Barb, shoulders square, eyes steady. "Yes," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it did not shake. "I do." She signed where Barb pointed, ink on paper. A choice locked in. Vane's face went red around the edges. "You are making a mistake," he said. Elena set the pen down with care. "No," she said. "You were counting on me not reading the fine print." Barb stamped the papers, filed the cure notice, and handed Elena a copy. "Your loan is now current," she said. "Foreclosure process is stopped while you complete repairs and inspections." Quote, something in my chest finally let go. Outside on the sidewalk, the sky was still gray, but it felt lighter somehow. Traffic hummed on the street. Elena stared down at the stamped letter in her hand like she could not quite believe it. "You just spent your savings," she said. "Most of it," I answered. "On my building." "On our building," I said. She looked up at me, eyes shining but not spilling. "You don't even know me," she said. I let out a slow breath. "I know you stood your ground when it would have been easier to fold. I know you stayed all night while we worked the roof. I know you would rather fight with numbers than beg. That is enough for me." Her jaw moved like she was holding back a wave of feelings. Then she nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "Then let's build something real." We signed the partnership agreement that afternoon at a corner table in the closed diner. It was just us, a cheap pen, and a thick binder I had put together the night before. 50-50, I said, pointing to the first line. "Profits, decisions, all of it." She read every page. She did not rush. "You have veto power," I added, tapping another clause, "on any design change, menu change, major vendor. If I try to turn this place into something you hate, you say no, and the answer is no." Her eyes moved down the page. "And this exit clause?" she asked. "If you ever want out," I said, "you can sell your half to me at a fair price. If I want out, same deal. No traps. No tricks." She studied me for a long second, like she was checking for cracks. Whatever she saw there made her shoulders drop a little, tension easing. She signed. Then I signed. 2 names on the same line. The next 2 weeks were nothing but work. We pulled down the ruined ceiling and cut out the worst of the rotten wood. New beams went up, bigger and stronger, sistered tight beside the old ones. Fresh posts went down to clean footings. My crew swore, laughed, and drank gallons of coffee. Elena ran the diner like a job site. She set a schedule, kept a whiteboard list, and checked off every line herself. She chased inspectors on the phone, pushed back when they tried to add extra work that was not in code, and made sure every receipt went into a binder. She was everywhere, under ladders passing up tools, at the back door watching the grease trap repairs, at the counter redoing the budget in a spiral notebook. Every night, when the guys left and the saws went quiet, she would stand under the new ceiling and look up. Sometimes she said nothing at all. Sometimes she just breathed out slow, like the room was finally starting to breathe with her. One night we finished late. The diner smelled like fresh paint fighting with fryer oil, and my arms felt like concrete. I was wiping dust off the counter when I felt her come up beside me. "Let me," she said, taking the rag from my hand. "You own half of this place now." I said. "Pretty sure you have better jobs than wiping counters." She gave me a small, almost playful look. "Pretty sure I get to decide what my jobs are," she said. We were close. Close enough that I could see the faint flour on her cheekbone, the tired lines at the edges of her eyes, the way her mouth kept almost smiling and then stopping. "Why did you really do it, Silas?" she asked quietly. "The money, the risk, all of it. Tell me the part that's not about beans and cure clauses." I could have dodged. I could have made a joke. Instead, I told her the truth. "Because I don't build things to trap people," I said. "I build things to hold." And when you said you were not taking his money, I believed you. I wanted to be the guy who helped you stand, not the guy who watched you fall. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to read all the small print. Then, very slowly, she reached up, grabbed the front of my hoodie with both hands, and pulled me down. Her kiss was quick and hard, like setting a bolt tight. Warm, sure, no hesitation. My whole body lit up, steady and strong, like a beam-catching load it was built for. She pulled back first, cheeks flushed. "Don't make it weird," she said, breath a little unsteady. I smiled. "I won't," I answered. She turned away, but I saw the small, real smile she tried to hide as she walked toward the kitchen. Reopening day was 3 days away. The paint was almost dry. The new lights were straight and bright. The roof was tight and silent over our heads. We had saved the building, but I had no idea yet what would happen when we opened the doors and Vane walked back in. Reopening day did not feel like a party. It felt like a test. The air in the diner smelled like fresh paint, trying to fight with fryer oil and coffee. The vanilla scent was back from the shake machine, but now it mixed with something cleaner. New ceiling tiles ran in a straight line above the booths. New lights hung in a neat row, bright but warm. We flipped the sign to open at 7. For the first 10 minutes, no one came in. I wiped the same section of counter 3 times. Elena pretended to check the coffee maker, but I could see her eyes flick toward the door every few seconds. Then, the bell over the door rang. A mom with 2 kids walked in, holding their hands tight. She stopped, looked up at the ceiling, then at Elena. "We missed your pancakes," the little girl said. Something in Elena's shoulders loosened. "Then sit wherever your mom says, and I'll fix that," she replied. More people followed. A pair of road workers in orange vests, still dusty from a job. A nurse in scrubs. 2 teenagers who usually acted too cool to care about anything. Old man Miller walked in last, like he always did. Same flannel jacket, same newspaper tucked under his arm. He stopped under the new beam and tilted his head back, checking the line the way I had the night before. "Looks solid," he said. "It is," I answered. He nodded once and headed for his usual booth. It was under the new, stronger section. He sat down without fear, like that was his way of saying he trusted us more than any inspection tag. The morning stayed steady. Orders came in slow but sure. People looked up at the ceiling more than they used to. They ran their hands along the braced posts. Some of them thanked Elena. Some just left big tips. By noon, the place was almost full. The sound of forks and low talk filled the room. The diner felt alive again. That was when the door opened and the room shifted. Greg Vane walked in, wearing a dark coat and a careful smile. His shoes were too clean for a place that still had a little dust hiding in the corners. He paused under the new ceiling, eyes scanning the beam line, the posts, the inspection sign near the door, the framed cure letter on the wall. His jaw moved once. Elena stepped out from behind the counter before he could take another step. She stood in his path, apron on, pen in hand, like this was just any other moment in her day. "You're not here to eat," she said. "I am a customer," he replied. "Is that a crime now?" His voice carried across the room. Conversation slowed and then stopped. Chairs creaked as people turned to look. I came out from the back and stood a few feet behind Elena, not crowding her, just there. She nodded toward the wall by the door. "You're here to see if I broke," she said. The inspection sign hung there, signed and dated. The cure letter from the bank was framed right beside it. Next to that, in a clear sleeve, were the grease trap receipts and a copy of the city code I had printed out. Vane's eyes flicked over everything, fast and sharp. "Paper does not change reality," he said. "This place is still weak. You will still fail. You should have taken my offer." No one laughed. No one looked away. The teenage boy in the corner booth set his phone down. The nurse crossed her arms. The two road workers turned their stools so they were facing the counter. The mom with the kids pulled them a little closer but did not leave. Old man Miller folded his newspaper and placed it on the table. Then he took off his glasses, set them on top of the paper, and turned on his seat to stare at Vane. The room went quiet. Really quiet. The kind of quiet you feel in your chest. "You have rights," Vane said, louder now. "I am allowed to be here." I walked up until I stood shoulder to shoulder with Elena. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. "You lost," I said simply. "On paper, on the roof, on the grease trap. She is current. She is in compliance. This is not your building." Vane glared at me. His eyes dropped to the keys hooked on my belt, to the dust on my boots, to the small grease streak on my sleeve. "She is still weak," he said. "What happens when the market dips? When a pipe bursts? When something else fails? You cannot save her from everything." Elena did not flinch. "I don't need you to worry about me," she said. "Especially not from my doorway." Barb from the bank had stopped in on her lunch break. She sat at the counter with a sandwich and a coffee. She lifted the cure letter copy she had brought, tapped it once, then set it back down where he could see it. She did not say a word. She did not have to. Across the room, a dad pushed his chair back and stood. He did not step forward. He just stood, arms folded, watching. A couple of other people stood too. No one told Vane to leave. No one shouted. They just watched him. The silence felt heavy, but not the same way a failing ceiling feels. This weight was on him, not on us. His fake smile slipped. "You all think this is over," he said. "It is not." Quote. He looked at Elena one more time, maybe hoping to see fear. Instead, he saw a woman who had read every line, signed every paper, and stood under her own roof without flinching. He took a step back. Then another. The bell over the door rang as he opened it. For a second, cold air blew in and made the new light sway just a little. Then he was gone. The bell fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. Then the teenage boy picked up his phone again. The nurse went back to her soup. The mom helped her daughter cut her pancakes. Forks scraped plates. Low talk started to rise again. Life moved on. Elena let out a breath I knew she had been holding for weeks. She turned to look at me. Something soft and bright sat in her eyes that had not been there before. "Get back to work, partner," she said, but there was a smile behind the words. That night, after closing, we wiped down every surface and stacked chairs. The neon sign outside buzzed softly in the dark. The rain had finally stopped. The world felt clean. I locked the front door and turned back toward the counter. Elena was there, leaning on it with both hands, watching me. "What?" I asked. She walked around the counter and came to stand in front of me. Her hair was loose again, falling over one shoulder like it had that first night. Her apron was off. She looked smaller without it, but stronger at the same time. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small ring of keys. They jingled softly as she turned them in her fingers. "Front door," she said, pointing to one key. "Back door. Storage. Office." She took my hand and pressed the ring into my palm. The metal was cool. My chest felt hot. "For mornings when my hands are full," she said, "and nights when I am too tired to get the door." I closed my fingers around the keys. They felt heavier than the cashier's check had. "You sure?" I asked. "Silas," she said, stepping closer. "You held my ceiling up. You put your savings on the line. You read the fine print when I was too tired to see straight. If anyone has earned a set of keys, it's you." Her hand was still on mine. The distance between us felt very small now. "Besides," she added, voice softer, "if you wanted, She looked up into my eyes, and the memory of that first night came back, full and sharp. The broken ceiling, the dust, the offer. "I'd sit in your booth all night," she finished. "For real this time, no emergency needed." My heart did something I could not measure. I set the keys on the counter behind her, then slid my hands to her waist. She lifted her hands to my chest, fingers curling into my shirt. When I kissed her, there was no rush, no panic, no groan of failing beams. Just steady warmth and the quiet hum of a building finally at rest. Outside, the streetlights glowed on the wet pavement. Inside, the ceiling held. The walls held. And for the first time in a long time, so did I.